Um, I know how hard it is to maintain an emotional level of control when people are manipulative, selfish, and vicious. It's really difficult. I've dealt with it on a more intense and excessive and compulsive manner than just about anybody in the world. More than likely, probably yes, yeah, because Krishnamurti was born in, and so, and other people were born a long time ago, and the capacity to manipulate through vicious selfishness is not at the level it is today. But you guys you do have to understand that it very clearly states, yeah, in the documentation of almost all major religions that the life and time of the man born in this valley to Ralph and Mary is going to be the life that changes the entire world, that gives us the logic and reason and faith and kindness of the courage of the Messiah. And the courage of the Messiah comes from his faithful love and not from his dominance, his eliteness, his supremacy, his philosopher kingness, that bullshit. There's a reason why Socrates and Plato and Aristotle and Plato's Republic is not the book of Revelation. Because you're talking about elitists that say we need elitists to constantly tell us what to do, which is not the case, right? Because you have with Amy's kids and with Patrick, Patrick was manipulated because of the abuse of his mother, and he felt he had to protect his mother, which, I understand that. And so I didn't get mad at him when he felt he had to go leave me. But then he came back to try to protect Natalie, and that's what got me. But he's very uncomfortable about that situation because the military put him in that situation to be uncomfortable, which is why he doesn't support me publicly and tell everybody, no, he's right, because it's a very uncomfortable situation. And I understood that, and I told him that. But he did it because, he told me he's doing it because otherwise she'd either end up pregnant, raped, pregnant, or murdered by these people, because what they were willing to do with young women in order to manipulate people to get their way. So he stepped in to try to help her listen to me and not be manipulated by these people. So, and he's a good kid. He is a good kid. And Natalie knows it, She knows what a good person he is and that he was abused horrifically by military ops, and so was she, but as far as me protecting people from that kind of abuse, you can't get any better. Someone that won't give in to what the group is doing because he knows it's fundamentally incorrect. It's wrong. I've had that conversation many times with Amy in prayer. Why did you do this? Because it's wrong. Because manipulated relationships don't work. Like I told you and Steffi all. You cannot manipulate people. You need to be faithful. Trust, honor, and character will only life those who are worthy. So you can't manipulate people in what you want to do. I had to do that. Yes. Was Steffi get my mom to tell Steffi the idea, because if it was my idea, she wouldn't do it. And then if my mom told her, and then she came back and told me what a great idea she had, I always had to go, Mom, could you please help? Because, well, I've got this. And I didn't figure it out till later when I finally get Marty Martin, who had a place at the Child Development Center thing and stuff, and there was a spot open, and I tried to get Patrick into it because I really liked Marty Martin. She was a good woman. And, if we needed any kind of a daycare thing, we had to be part of this thing. You had to get him in. And I got it. And she was, oh, yeah. But the place, it didn't happen. And because Steffi wanted the daycare 24/7 like she had with DES. She wanted to be able to leave him in there 10, 12 hours a day. And with Marty Martin's thing, it was just about 2 to 4 hours a day. And she didn't want that. She wanted more. what screwed it up. And then I didn't get that opportunity to have in a child development program to where we could do things like work and go to class and then have some daycare available that we wouldn't have to pay for. But it was, and that really chapped my heart. Because Mom paid for Corey's Montessori, but that was like $400. It was ridiculous. For back then, that was a lot of money. And you're like, sheesh, what are you talking about? $400, that was your paycheck. It's $400 a day, stuff. And so that was your paycheck for the week. That was your back in that time. And back in the 90s. But it was just, it's insane. It's insane when you have all that stuff. But she screwed up all that stuff, and she'd always screw up all that stuff because she wanted to do things her way. And then I would just tell Mom, hey, and then Mom would tell her, and then we would do things better for Patrick. Because if Mom said it, she would do it. Because she wanted to impress my mother. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had to figure that out. It wasn't manipulating. It was just trying to get her to be not selfish and do things right by her son. And so it was hard. I wasn't trying to manipulate anybody. It's just you couldn't, unless you had, so if she had the opportunity to be selfish like Amy, she would. But if she had people that she wanted to impress that were better people than the people that she was taught to be like, then she would change. Okay. And so when I thought about that this morning, Suzuki's so wonderful to have around, but he's like, like with Noah. Noah used to sit there and say, why are you and Patrick so smart and I'm so dumb? And I was like, you're not dumb. Okay. And then the people that studied him here and in Sierra Vista, they're Nazis. They'll follow and do this. They conform to the group easily. Okay. Amy and her kids, and they conform to the group. Okay. Like my sister. And she makes the kids, and like Elijah, they conform to the group easily. They're survivors. Okay. Me, life's eternal and grace is infinite. I'm not going to conform to a survivalist group that mass murders the other group because they're not part of our group. Oh, hell no. No. Not going to happen, right? And one of the biggest things I had with the Mormon church was, because of outside the group, because of my fondness and affection for people that were black and Mexican, and how I didn't even, it was like a duck taking the water. I didn't have the kids at school, they smell funny. The black people smell funny. It's like, they smell like people. There's different things, their hair smell, because the stuff they put in their hair smells different, but they're people, poop's poop, BO's BO, bad breath, it's about the same, right? And so I didn't understand that kind of illogical perception. I didn't understand people that were like that. I was like, wait, they're human beings, and plus, life being eternal and grace being infinite, and from the origin of my family, being Homo sapiens, black people were not foreign to me. And so I was like, no, they were not foreign at all. It was like home. I was like, Fred, that's Eve, right? So to me, it wasn't, no, it was the exact opposite of foreign, because life's eternal, grace is infinite, and the soul remembers and feels and listens greater than the mind, right? Because life's eternal. And so, but, the way they put it, is like, well, they're evil because they conform easily to the group. Well, attitude reflects leadership. Right? Okay. And so it's not Noah's and Natalie's and Emily's and Kate's life's eternal grace is infinite, and Amy's and Steffi's and Patrick's issue, okay, that they're having to conform to these groups to survive. That's your issue. Okay. And I am the living correction, okay, of computer operating systems. Okay. Because I do it better than Nobel Prize winners and scientists that have brain injuries. Okay. I have brain injuries from their abuse because they constantly assault my brain. Okay? But I was not born with those inherent brain injuries. Okay, I'm this eternal spirit of Adam, Moses, David, Jesus, John, the one that the wackadoodles refer to as the Alpha and the Omega, right? The first man to give us faith in God instead of try to turn God into a possessive pronoun first person that's on the mountain and Zeus and Apollo and all that shit. And always the spirit of the man that saves us from Zeus and Apollo on the mountain and satellites. As long as I'm God, now do as I say. Hey, this is a Val Kilmer movie. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, so, yeah, it's me. Okay. First, you're last, you're everything. It's not, yes, that's a Barry White song, which I kind of like, but I prefer Can't Get Enough of Your Love. Okay, but it's a pretty good song. But overall, and so, yeah, I got this. Well, you guys did it, You didn't accept the Lord's Prayer. You didn't accept humility of having faith in God. And you turned my spirit into a God to correct your technology when everybody's praying to, and then you're trying to circumvent it by mass murdering all the people that are in large prayer groups that are manipulated by people like you. And I keep saying that it's the same thing like with the Mormon church seeing me as the blasphemer of all blasphemers because of my relationships with homosexuals, because I'm not a homophobe. But I realize life's eternal and grace is infinite. So the cause of the homosexual is the person that's a homophobe. So say Ezra Taft Benson is your grandpa. You're probably going to want to be a gay because you don't want to meet a girl and end up, thinking to or a woman, you're going to be like, I want to be homosexual. I don't want to have a child like Ezra Taft Benson spying in people's houses and abusing the Messiah because he protects homosexuals from people like him, right? People that don't want to reproduce because they don't want to reproduce their relatives. All right. Do you understand? Okay. A lot of women in China tend to be homosexual because they don't want to reproduce people like Chiang Kai-shek and Mao Zedong. And who could blame them? Right? And every time we get a Sun Yat-sen, Mao Zedong and Chiang Kai-shek kill Sun Yat-sen and try to assimilate his life to their fucked up group. Okay? So Red Azalea me this and Dingling me that, right? So it makes sense that a lot of these women in Asian societies want to be homosexual and don't want to reproduce Hirohito or Mao Zedong, right? That's a logical reaction to somebody being abused by a bitchy man that's a shithead. That's a ninja. That's an assassin. That's a creed of assassins and rapists, right? So it's very logical for Ezra Taft Benson's granddaughter to want to be a homosexual. Okay? Or the guys that might provide the seed for the young man to sit there and say, I don't want to have sex with that girl, and end up having, a kid that's like grandpa. He's an asshole. He's a self-righteous asshole who pretends to be the sweet, loving, moral guy who watches children get sexually groomed by the military and doesn't stop it because he thinks this wouldn't happen if he was in charge. It's like, nigga, you are in charge of all the motherfucking shit with the goddamn fucking hillbilly ass motherfucking shit. Damn, you damn ass barrio boy from hell. Stay away from the Spanish influenza, right? It's horrible. Okay. And they don't see themselves as horrible. They see themselves as the great protectors and champions. It's like, are you living the Lord's Prayer? Do you have the faith of Psalms? Are you sustaining it with the wisdom of Proverbs? Well, if I was my daughter, I'd choose Othello too, right? The time for us, someday there'll be, right? Do you bite your thumb at me, sir? So you got to understand this, okay? When you understand eternity, you understand why people behave the way they behave, why they conform when they shouldn't, why they're homosexual because they don't want to reproduce someone like you. They hate their family. I'm not. I don't hate my family. I don't hate my dad. I don't hate my mom. Okay? But you marry outside the tribe. Right. Okay? You marry outside the tribe. Yeah, don't keep it too closely linked so we don't get that tribalism. Stick with your own kind, stay with your own kind. Up like that will kill your brother. Okay, do you understand? So, so I'm not a tribal, secular, insular person. You know me, running bear and little white dove, Maria, right? Because my life's not dependent on their kind of narrow affection, for the choice between them would be no choice at all. Soon the sound of the rails to my ears will be sweet, sweet music. You don't need NIL. Don't be stupid, you goofy little sun devil. I was watching her last night on the extra going, B, tell all the guys, grab all the guys at Fort Bliss by the nuts, squeeze real hard, look them in the eye, and tell them you can make them feel pain. And instead of reading with your kid, live and talk and listen to your kid. Okay. My mom didn't read. She bought the classics and I read them, but I didn't devour them. I just read them and then connected to the people that wrote them. And then explained it to my mother. She explained it to me, Oh, no, I explained Lucretius to my mother. Yeah. I was like 12 because I think we were still in Christians, I think. And when I read Lucretius, and she understood Marcus Aurelius, which is easy because he's Stoic, and Stoic's easy. Okay. But Lucretius she had trouble with. And I was just like, well, basically Lucretius is looking at life eternally, and he's looking at inherent traits that we already have due to our biology, as opposed to things that develop because of our development in our environment. So what we inherit before we even occupy our environment through our genetics is what Lucretius is literally talking about in his writings. Like Father Mulcahy with Aristotle with 1 foot in the eternal plane, 1 foot in reality with the boxer dude, right? And a fighter by his trade. And so you try to explain that to people and they make it spiritual. It's like, well, technically, I guess if you look at it, the nature of the spirit, yes, then it is. Life being eternal and grace being infinite, and molecular similitudes being temples to a soul that is an eternal spirit linked to those genetic sequences, right? So, faith based on reality. If science negates your religion, you need to get new religion. And if your science has no religion, you're genocidal and psychotic, right? Nazi, Nazi, Nazi. Oh, how Nation of Islam of you, right? Any supremacy through fresh flesh is insane, right? Because they tried to eradicate people like me off the planet to establish their dominance through the flesh. And yet here's the old quadruple redneck hillbilly man himself correcting all your bullshit on a Samsung Galaxy 10 he brought on clearance at Walmart before the COVID, right? Assholes. Actually, I think it was during. Yeah, did I buy this right before I got fired? I think I did. See, I got fired in February. I think I bought this in January because we didn't have the COVID protocols and everything until like March, right? And we had people dying from the flu in Las Cruces, and all the poor people were already dying from COVID in November, okay, of 2019. Okay, so all that bullshit about and everybody's saying that. My own son says that too. Well, no, COVID was created in a lab by the Chinese. No, they get cultures of how how germs and stuff are reacting to the environment for genocide operations, but it's not necessarily like invented in the lab. You need the environment to be conducive for it to kill people, for it to work outside the lab in a way that they could, quote unquote, manage it. Okay. You understand? You understand how genocidal operators work. You're in the army now. You're not behind the plow. You'll never get rich by dividend it. You're in the army now. Right? Here's a little red book. All right. Okay. So do you understand? Oh, look. Heil Hitler. It's a Hitler Youth. Do you understand how you are? Okay. And do you understand what you're susceptible to and what you're doing and what you're acting like? And so I could say don't do that, but I'm fixing the quantum computing, and it's happening now. Um, no, the XI is not in control. He's just Donald Trump and XI are just Kukla, Fran, and Ollie, Charlie Horse, Lamb Chops, and uh, what's the other one? There's Charlie Horse, Lamb Chops, and Hush Puppy. Hush Puppy. Forgot about Hush Puppy. This is a song that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friend. Some people started singing it, not knowing what it was, and this hooked in his. And then Zorak yells, and I guess it just ended, right, Brack? Okay, you musical barbecue people. So don't get too, oh, it's the end of the world as we know it. Life's eternal and grace is infinite. Oh. The world as you know it is always ending and always beginning because life's eternal, grace is infinite. Go back to Colville and see the guy driving in 1983. That was a couple of years after we left. Then go back and see it now. It's got a few changes, a few this and that. It's the end of the world as you know it. Yes, it is. It's the end of the world as you know it. Don't know it. Why? Because life's eternal and grace is infinite. Stop trying to crystallize. Okay? I love you guys, all right? We'll talk later. I got some chores to do. Peace.